Hello and welcome to the Middle East Report. In this programme today we'll be looking at the threats, the challenges and the opportunities facing Israel in 2017. Warm welcome to the programme. We have a star-studded cast for today's programme. I'm joined by my good friend Michael McCann from Israel-Britain Alliance, and also my other good friend David Menzer, the former director of Labour Friends of Israel. So being a former director of LFI and a former Labour MP, I'm sure that you two have got a lot in common.
Indeed we have.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, want to wish you both a Happy New Year for 2017. So I'll start off with you, Michael. What are the priorities for Israel-Britain Alliance in 2017?
Well, I think that we've seen in 2016 the case put forward by the enemies of Israel collapse from their attempt to sue the British government over Balfour right through to their attempts to criticise the events of 1967 in the Six-Day War. And I think in 2017 we have to focus on those important anniversaries from the first Zionist conference in 1897 through to the Balfour Declaration, to the historic decision in 1947 by the UN, and then on to the 67 war and the Six-Day War. And we have to recognise how important they were for Israel and for the people who support Israel. But in addition to that, we have to think of the wider global context that we find ourselves in. Of course, in the UK, we'll be concentrating, or we'll be looking to Brexit to find out what that is going to bring to our country. And I think that's an opportunity to further strengthen the ties between our country and the State of Israel.
Excellent. That was a very good summary. Very impressive. And David, what would you say that the challenges are facing the British Jewish community in 2017?
Well, the challenges facing the British Jewish community, I think, are the same challenges which it's faced in 2016. I think that we've got a political situation here in the UK. We've got a Prime Minister who has been very generous with her support for Israel, and I think that we've got a lot to be grateful for in terms of Theresa May's support for Israel. But of course we've got the enduring problem of the leadership of the Labour Party, the unsuccessful attempt to try and change leaders. That didn't work, so unfortunately it looks like the Labour Party will continue for the foreseeable future to have a difficult relationship with the Jewish community. But we've got to be positive, and things can change very quickly. We know they're certainly not in our hands. Who could have predicted all the changes in 2016? And I'm sure whatever happens in 2017, it'll be all for the best.
No, absolutely. Well, we've got an incredible year of anniversaries this year, haven't we? Start off with, firstly, the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration, the 50th anniversary since the liberation of Jerusalem, the 120th anniversary of the First Zionist Congress in Basel, and also the 70th anniversary of the UN Partition Plan. So let's have a look and a reminder of the anniversaries that this year holds that all indicate to the birth and re-establishment of the State of Israel in May 1948.
In the year 1897, the First Zionist Congress, inspired by Theodor Herzl's vision of the Jewish state, proclaimed the right of the Jewish people to national revival in their own country. On November 2nd, 1917, this proclamation was acknowledged in the Balfour Declaration. It was later reaffirmed by the mandate of the League of Nations, which gave international recognition to the historic connection of the Jewish people with Palestine, or as the Jews referred to it, Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. During the Second World War, while millions of European Jews were being slaughtered, the Jewish people in Palestine made a full contribution in the struggle of freedom-loving nations against the Nazi evil. After Germany's defeat and surrender of Berlin on May 9, 1945, the horrors of the Holocaust were being publicly displayed to the entire world. On the heels of this catastrophe, the problem of Jewish homelessness, that of 2,000 years, became urgent as never before. On November 29, 1947, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted Resolution 181, that of the establishment of an independent Jewish state in Palestine, calling on the inhabitants of the country to take the necessary steps to put the plan into effect. This recognition may not be revoked, ever. It is here in this museum hall in the middle of Tel Aviv, close to the Mediterranean Sea, that the members of the People's Council and Executive and invited leaders gathered on Friday, May 14, 1948. It is here that the ones present listened with emotion and excitement as David Ben-Gurion declared the creation of the State of Israel.
תוקף זכותנו הטבעית וההיסטורית ועל יסוד החלטת עצרת האומות המאוחדות אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
And so, just as God promised, a nation was born in a day. Since the declaration, Israel has not known real peace with her neighbors. But in every war, every attack, God fought to keep Israel on the map and her people in the land that he promised to give to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
So a very special year for anniversaries for Israel in 2017. Michael, one of the big celebrations this year is the Balfour Declaration, when Lord Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, signed the Balfour Declaration, which was essentially the blueprint for the re-establishment of the State of Israel in November 1917. And there's been lots of commemorations going ahead this year. But what are the plans to remember and celebrate this wonderful document that was given to the British people to give to the Jewish people, the re-establishment of their ancient covenant homeland in the Middle East?
Well, I think the first thing is that those celebrations have already started on the 16th of November, ahead of just after the 2nd of November date. We had a debate in the House of Commons, attended by 33 MPs, 25 contributions, overwhelmingly positive, and even those that expressed some sort of criticism was, in the history of debates in the House of Commons, it was fairly mild. And there were some marvellous contributions made by Theresa Villiers, people like Luciana Berger, Ivan Lewis, John Speller, John Howell, across the whole House. Even contributions from people from the Scottish National Party, positive contributions. So therefore, that's a change. It's a sea change, in my view, of the debates that normally take place in the House of Commons. And I think people will have different opinions, but I think the Balfour Declaration is one of the most important documents, not just for Israel, but in terms of the right of self-determination, a right that's now accepted across the globe. There's lots of countries who have been recognised before 1917 and afterwards. And I was only disappointed by Tobias Ellwood's words in that debate when he said that the Balfour Declaration was a product of its time. I think it was ahead of its time. And I think that when you look at South Sudan, for example, created in 2010, they perhaps looked at the inspiration of the Jewish state in terms of looking ahead to their future. So we started with a debate in the House of Commons. There'll be various events taking place right up to the actual centenary on the 2nd of November 2017. But I'm not going to disclose all the Israel-Britain alliance plans, just because a lot of people watch this programme, not just supporters. But there's a lot of things and little surprises we have on the way. But you can bet your bottom dollar we're going to be celebrating the Balfour Declaration.
Absolutely. And David, I've got to say, you know, when you look at the mess in the Middle East, had the British government not produced the Balfour Declaration, had there not been the re-establishment of the State of Israel in the 14th of May, I dread to think what the region would be like, because Israel is a beacon of light. Israel is the only stable democracy and is the only democracy in the Middle East. And without Israel, I dread to think what the Middle East would look like.
You know, this commemoration is very, very important And in that clip, you saw Chaim Weizmann, whose picture was behind David Ben-Gurion as he was declaring the state. And of course, Chaim Weizmann's famous words were Im tirtzu, which means, if you will it, it is no dream. And I think though that strapline, if you will, it is no dream, has really been in the DNA of the whole of the State of Israel. Because if you look at the difficulties which Israel has faced since its inception, if you look at the problems it's had, no natural resources, incoming of all those refugees from Europe and from the Arab countries. When you look at the arid nature of the country, the fact that it was desert and swamps and had no natural resources whatsoever, yet it still has managed to thrive and to use its only natural resource, which is its brains and hard work and the help and the help of the good Lord.
Absolutely.
Those words of Chaim Weizmann, if you will it, it is no dream. We are seeing that dream come to pass right now. And it is plainly miraculous what Israel has achieved, both its lead in the high-tech sector, its managing to be a real homeland for the Jewish people, where there has not been one for 2,000 years in its historic homeland. These are dreams coming true right now. And I think this 100-year anniversary is certainly a time for celebration.
Absolutely. And David, isn't it also important that maybe this is a good opportunity to honour Chaim Weizmann, because he's the first president of Israel. He decided to move to Manchester to be a lecturer at my university, to teach chemistry, which he played a vital role in the war effort that enabled Britain to actually win the First World War with the munitions needed. So his contribution not only to the British war effort during World War I, but also for his inspired leadership. Isn't this time that we look at him and the unique friendship that he had between the Christian Zionist Lord Balfour and Chaim Weizmann, and that friendship between Jew and Gentile coming together in support of the re-establishment of the State of Israel? Absolutely.
And Britain, of course, had played such an important role in the formation of the State of Israel. And, it was wonderful to hear the Prime Minister want to celebrate that fact. Less wonderful to hear Tobias Ellwood, as Michael was saying, being a little bit circumspect. But that is the sort of classical, ongoing, decades-long difference between the Foreign Office, on the one hand, being much more cautious about Israel and being supportive and friendly towards Israel, and Number 10, which has always been supportive. I mean, this stuff is much older than I am or any of us. I mean, you can see this wonderfully played out in Yes Minister. They've done a fantastic sketch on this fact. But look, it is a wonderful time. It's a great time to celebrate the achievements of the State of Israel. 100 years, since those 100 years, and since the state was created in 1948, unfortunately, Israel has not known one day of peace in all of that time. Yet it has still managed to triumph and succeed and innovate and prosper in a tremendously difficult environment. Ehud Barak always used to say that we live in a very difficult neighborhood, Israel and the Middle East. And you can see that, sadly, with what's going on in Syria and all the hostile nations around it. Israel is a beacon of democracy. It's the only democracy, really, from Morocco right over to Iran, which has regular elections, a free press, and a vibrant democracy where its politicians are held to account. So I think there's a lot to celebrate, certainly.
Absolutely. And isn't this a good opportunity, Michael, that we can look at the virtues and the characteristics of the Jewish state, knowing that there's something very special about the Jewish people, and that is their celebration of life. I mean, what other nation, for example, would actually take in a refugee child who had cancer and had to have a bone marrow transplanted, send in their special forces into Syria to get a relative, fly them into Israel to carry out an operation to actually get the right marrow into a bone so that she can be healed of cancer? I mean, what other nation would put their own special forces at risk for one of their so-called enemies?
Absolutely, and there are many examples of that. There's organisations like Save a Child's Heart that are working in Israel, taking kids from across the globe, not just in Israel or the surrounding countries, to help them and save them. And as you say, putting themselves in danger as well. And I think what we can do this year, and I think it's an opportunity rather than a challenge, is to contrast that with what we hear from the opponents of Israel. The contrast, the leaders of Hamas have been members of their family treated in Israel. That doesn't get any press coverage. You know, these types of things need to be highlighted in terms of the things that people say. And of course, when you go back to the Balfour Declaration and you look at what a lot of people thought was a comical suggestion that the British government should apologise for it, there's a deeper point there, which is this suggestion that the Palestinians want a peace deal. How can they possibly want a peace deal when the very foundation for the rebirth of the State of Israel is something that they want our country to apologise for? That goes to the very root of whether the people who claim they want peace actually want it. I don't believe they do want peace. I reached that conclusion, sadly, some time ago, having spoken directly to the leaders of the PLO and the leaders of the Palestinian Authority. And really, I think 2017 gives us opportunities in the platform of these major anniversaries to expose the utter hypocrisy of people who claim they want to have peace, but every opportunity to get that peace is thrown back in the faces of those that seek to bring people together.
Yeah. So let's have a look at Theresa May, our British Prime Minister, speaking last month in December at the Conservative Friends of Israel conference, where she was talking about the virtues and the importance of the Balfour Declaration.
Not only is this CFI's biggest ever lunch, with over 800 people and over 200 parliamentarians, it's special for me because it's the first time I've come here as Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party. And it's a special time because, as others have referred to, we are entering the centenary year of the Balfour Declaration. On the 2nd of November 1917, the then Foreign Secretary, a Conservative Foreign Secretary, Arthur James Balfour, wrote, "His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country." It is one of the most important letters in history. It demonstrates Britain's vital role in creating a homeland for the Jewish people, and it is an anniversary we will be marking with pride.
And that was Theresa May talking about the importance of the Balfour Declaration. David, what a contrast. I'm sorry to say that Theresa May seems to be the most passionate and supportive Prime Minister since Margaret Thatcher, supporting the Balfour Declaration, coming out and redefining the new definition of anti-Semitism, which her government's going to adopt, which means anyone that says that Israel is a racist state or that Israel has no right to exist will fall foul of this new category, which has got to be welcomed in order to confront the evil that is Jew hatred. Also, her support for Israel is very strong, and she also talked earlier in the speech as well about the importance of Brexit and how that gives an opportunity to strengthen trade ties between Israel and Great Britain. But what a contrast compared to the Labour Party and Jeremy Corbyn. How will Jeremy Corbyn deal with the issue of the Balfour Declaration centenary year?
Look, it's easy to talk about Jeremy, but I want to hark back just for a second to talk about former Labour leaders. And we've had some excellent Labour Prime Ministers who had a real understanding of Israel's unique position in the Middle East. We've had Tony Blair, of course, who was a real and continues to be a real a supporter of Israel and understands its position. And of course Gordon Brown as well, who also had a really strong link to the land of Israel, which really came from his father, who was a minister in the Church of Scotland in Israel. So, right now I think we're in a very difficult place in the Labour Party. I make no bones about the fact that the Labour Party, the leadership of the Labour Party has been hijacked. It's been hijacked by the far left. But let's not forget within the PLP, there are still strong supporters of Israel and of peace in the region, of a balanced approach to the Middle East. We've still got a lot of Labour MPs who are strong supporters of Israel, who are strong supporters of equal rights and the right of the Jewish people to their own homeland, notwithstanding the right to the Palestinians as well. So, that is a cause of optimism. As for Jeremy himself, I would say he's a lost cause. I, unfortunately, as soon as he was elected, tore up my membership card because I couldn't possibly sit in the same party as him. He's not my leader anymore, which I'm quite grateful for. But look, let's look forward to brighter times in the future, and hopefully soon, very, very soon, the Labour Party will return to its more centrist ideology, the ideology which will help it, from a position which will help it to win elections again, rather than being, in the electoral wilderness as it is right now.
Yeah. And Michael, is any plans in Scotland to remember Lord Arthur Balfour and the contribution he played as a Christian Zionist in helping to re-establish the State of Israel with the signing of the Balfour Declaration?
Well, can I just say that I'm very grateful to you, Simon, for raising this important point that our Prime Minister Theresa May neglected to mention, which of course is that Arthur James Balfour was a Scot. We should all take great pride in that. And I think there'll be, there'll be lots of attempts by people who oppose Israel to somehow have a campaign which would regret his now famous letter in 1917, but we will be celebrating it, and we'll be celebrating it in a number of different ways. It was a very short letter, but the words were extremely important because it was the first time that and we were a superpower then. We were a superpower in our world, and we were saying that we recognised the right for a national home for the Jewish people, which led to Israel's rebirth in 1948. There's lots in there for us to get our teeth into. In terms of, there's one thing that does concern me, but because there's this attempt to play off that the Prime Minister's office and the Foreign and Commonwealth office are like two different entities. Prime Minister Theresa May is in charge of every single government department and civil servant in the United Kingdom. So therefore, I really get a bit concerned when the Foreign and Commonwealth office think they can go off-piste when it comes to how they celebrate notable events like this. And it worries me that we had a junior minister, Tobias Ellwood, saying, being quite negative about it within amongst a whole series of contributions that were positive in the 16th of November, saying that he would mark the Balfour Declaration, or the country would mark the Balfour Declaration. We then have Theresa May saying we'll mark it with pride, and hopefully in the next couple of months we'll get the Prime Minister will use the word celebrate, which I think is the most appropriate term that we can use. A celebration of the Balfour Declaration, the rebirth of the State of Israel, and what was also mentioned crucially in the debate, what Israel has given the world since 1948. Do you know, and do your viewers know, Simon, that we now have a situation that Israel has invented a plasma. You don't need stitchings anymore, you don't need staples, you don't need glue. A plasma which seals the skin after an operation or seals a wound. I mean, my goodness, just one of the latest innovations to come out of Israel, and I'm sure there'll be many more in the years to come.
Absolutely. Also, 2017, in probably a few days, we're going to see the inauguration of Donald Trump as America's 46th president of the United States, and he is vowed in his campaign, together with Mike Pence, to move the US Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. How symbolic will that be if we actually see this happening?
Well, let's hope it does happen. We've seen many presidential candidates make that promise in the past. I think it would be the right thing to do. I think you can very legitimately put the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, the capital of the Jewish people, while at the same time not affecting the rights of the Palestinians to have an extremely close link to Jerusalem as well. And I think it would be so wonderful, because I think it would make the British government really follow suit, and that would be a wonderful thing for 2017. So, it's not such a difficult thing to do. People are complicating it in the media about what a thing it would be to do. The building exists already in Jerusalem. It's there already, the consulate. All they'd have to do is change the plaque on the front of the building and called it the Embassy of Israel rather than the consulate. The embassy of the embassy of the United States of America in Jerusalem, and I think that will be a very, very powerful message. Very, very, very powerful message.
Yeah. So let's see this excellent CBN report talking about moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv, where it is now, to Israel's eternal capital, Jerusalem.
That's right, Pat. Even before he takes office, Trump's transition team reportedly is looking for places to relocate the embassy, which would fulfill one of his campaign promises. Chris Mitchell brings us that story.
During his campaign, Trump pledged to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. His campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, reiterated that pledge and said it's a very big priority for Trump. Some believe one possible location for the U.S. Embassy would be at the current site of the U.S. Citizen Services Office. It's located here in a Jerusalem neighborhood and considered a logical choice for a future embassy, but it's not the only potential site. According to Israel's Channel 2, another choice, the area of the nearby Diplomat Hotel, currently a home for elderly immigrants. The U.S. owns the property, but not the hotel. A third site is this abandoned lot in the busy Talpiot neighborhood, owned by the U.S. Former Israeli Finance Minister Yair Lapid says Trump's pledge to move the U.S. Embassy is an excellent idea.
It's about time. We are sitting now in Israel's capital.
According to opinion polls, Lapid is seen as a top contender for Israeli prime minister in the future. In response to a question from CBN News, Lapid told foreign journalists that every embassy should be in Jerusalem.
This is our capital. We waited 2,000 years to come back here, and we expect the world to acknowledge this fact and to recognize Jerusalem as our capital, and therefore we should have here the embassy.
He related a story from President Obama's recent trip to Israel.
I remember not long ago on Shimon Peres's funeral, the White House issued a statement saying the president was in Jerusalem, and then they changed it, not to mention Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And this was in Western Jerusalem. It wasn't even in Eastern Jerusalem. And I think this is preposterous.
No country in the world recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital. A State Department official told CBN News, since Israel's founding, administrations of both parties have maintained a consistent policy of recognizing no state as having sovereignty over Jerusalem. We remain committed to this long-standing policy. But in 1995, the U.S. Congress passed the Jerusalem Embassy Act, mandating the move of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So far, every president has avoided the move, citing security concerns and signing a special waiver. Moving the embassy wouldn't make everyone happy.
There will be happiness on the Israeli side, there will be unhappiness on the Arab-Palestinian side. There may be riots, there may be violence.
Some say the move must come in the wider context of an Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement. Others believe Jerusalem is Israel's eternal, undivided capital. In the meantime, many say if the move is ever going to happen, Trump is the one to get the job done. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Excellent report there by Chris Mitchell. I have to say, Michael, I mean, I think it would be extraordinary if Trump decides to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and the galvanizing impact that that would have on Israel and Israeli sovereignty over the eternal city of Jerusalem. And let's also remember that only Israeli sovereignty has guaranteed the freedom of worship for Christians, for Muslims, and for the Jewish people. No other empire, no other nation has offered those guarantees of freedom. So I think this would be a tremendous gift on behalf of the United States to the people of Israel. What's your opinion?
Well, if Donald Trump delivers what he said he's going to deliver during the election campaign, and all signs, the Electoral College endorsed that position in December, so he is going to be the President of the United States, despite the fact that some people might not like that. Democratic election took place and he's been elected under the rules of the American Constitution. So therefore, if he delivers on the promises he made during the campaign, it will be a sea change in the relationship between the United States of America and Israel. And the point that was made in that fantastic clip that you showed, I mean, and not before time. Because this idea that we can continually play this game, that these doors have got to be left open to end the Israeli-Arab conflict, in my view, it's moonshine. Because I think I've said in previous programmes with you, Simon, that I met the leader of the PLO in 2014. And I put this direct question to him. I said, a private conversation, I won't repeat it. I mean, you'll forgive me, I have moved on now since 2014, so I will repeat it. I said, if the Clinton-Arafat-Barak deal was put back on the table at 2014 prices, so the $80 billion that was spoken about in that deal for reparations, if that became, $160 billion or whatever, would you accept that as a peace deal? Because everything was covered in that deal. And the answer I received was a stony silence. And I think I used the quote again in one of your shows before, that some of the greatest tyrannies are take place in silence. And quite frankly, I'm not convinced at all that the people who claim that they purport to be interested in peace will actually be interested in having a proper negotiation and coming to a deal. And I therefore think all these other issues about whether Jerusalem's the capital or not the capital, whatever, these are all side issues, deflections to take away from the very difficult reality that we should face, which is that there are no negotiations in sight, and quite frankly there are no Palestinian leaders, in my opinion, who have got the courage to take forward a peace negotiation.
And David, after we saw the surprise victory of Donald Trump over his Democratic rival Hillary Clinton, you could see almost the relief on Bibi Netanyahu's face, the Israeli Prime Minister, that Trump had won, after what can only be described as 8 extremely hostile, difficult years of the Obama administration, and the chance for, again, Israel to have that very important strategic alliance with the United States. How important is that alliance between the United States and Israel in a number of different fields, including fighting Islamist terrorism?
Well, of course, it's hugely important and hugely significant. One of the problems of the last 8 years is that, sadly, Obama, his policies, I think with the best of intentions, but nevertheless we've got to deal with the results. There's been a vacuum of leadership in the world, and the world just can't afford that vacuum. And where Americans have pulled out their interests, the Russians have stepped in, and other more evil forces like IS, Daesh have stepped in. And that has been the problem, unfortunately. That has been a real problem. America cannot afford to pull out to turn isolationists. Sometimes, engaging in difficult parts of the world, like the Middle East, is difficult. It's costly as well in the lives of US servicemen and the lives of British servicemen as well. But unfortunately, it's crucial to keep the peace in the world. With Obama pulling out of those areas, unfortunately, there's been a vacuum created, and we're living with the results right now. But I just want to say 2 things about the Jerusalem issue as well.
Absolutely.
Students of politics know, and we learned this from the Blair years in '97, the best time to get things done, difficult things done, is to do them very, very quickly. One of the problems with Blair leadership, it was, lots and lots of positive things, but he could have been bolder back in '97. He could have done more things in '97. I would encourage Trump, if he's watching, I'm sure he is.
Absolutely, why wouldn't he be?
I'm sure he is. I would encourage him to do these things quickly. Do the tough stuff quickly, earlier on, when the momentum is with you. So that I would encourage him to do that quickly, so I hope he does. The second thing is that, students of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict know that it's certainly not Israel dragging its feet in terms of negotiations. Israel, as Michael very wisely put forward, has put on the table some extremely generous, extremely difficult deals to be accepted by the Palestinians, to be negotiated with the Palestinians, both with Clinton, also with Obama, and with the litany of Israeli leaders. The Palestinians keep saying no. And their latest no is that they won't even negotiate. They won't even sit down round the table. I cannot think of a better impetus to encourage the Palestinians to come and negotiate with Israel about the future of their people as well as the people of Israel than moving the embassy, creating the US embassy in Jerusalem. Because that will encourage them, that will make the people living in Ramallah, the ordinary Palestinians think, think if we don't participate in these negotiations, if we don't get in, our own position is moving further and further and further away. So I think it'd be a wonderful thing if Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and I think for those 2 important reasons. Number 1, do it now while you can, while the impetus is with you, and number 2, it's actually be a progressive thing to do for the peace process, because it will push the Palestinians back to a more progressive case and actually talk to Israel.
Absolutely. So also in 2017, we will be remembering the 50th anniversary of the Six-Day War and the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Jerusalem. So let's look at this miracle that took place in June 1967.
a biblical prophecy comes to pass as the forces of Israel sweep on in an astonishing triumph of strategy. After achieving air supremacy, her forces thrust like an avenging sword at the very heart of Arab self-confidence.
And then, perhaps, the greatest miracle of all, a miracle Israel never expected: Jerusalem. Again, it seemed as though it was a divine appointment in time. Jerusalem was to be restored to the Jewish people after 2,000 years. The enemies of Israel had twice as many soldiers as we did, 3 times as many planes, 4 times as many tanks. The odds were stacked against us on every military front. The love of Israel, self-sacrifice, and courage of the Israeli soldiers, combined with divine guidance and assistance, made these miracles possible. Yitzhak Rabin, then the Minister of Defense, was given the honor of giving the war its name. He chose the 6-day war we're calling the 6 days of creation, as Israel too was created with the liberation of Jerusalem. As the center of gravity of the Jewish people has now returned to the land of our fathers, the Torah center of the world has once again returned to Jerusalem. The chief rabbinate of the State of Israel has established the 28th of Iyar, a day of Hallel and Hodayah, praise and thanks for the salvation of our people and the liberation and return of our capital, Jerusalem. Jews in Israel and in every country in which they reside come together in prayer and celebration. Similar to Hanukkah and Purim, it sometimes takes many years for the miracles to be fully recognized and celebrated. The Mizrahi World Movement is involved in massive community-wide celebrations across the globe, from London to Los Angeles, from Melbourne to Johannesburg to Chicago and Toronto. For 2,000 years, our hope never died. Our faith as a people never wavered. Wherever Jews were and whenever they prayed facing Jerusalem. Whatever happened the night before, whether it was the Crusades, the Inquisition, Muslim oppression, or Nazis in Germany, the next morning a Jew would wake up, dust himself off, put on his talit, face Jerusalem, and pray to come home, knowing somehow, some way, God would bring us back. This is our greatest celebration. To be alive in this generation where the prayers of our fathers and mothers have finally been answered, to be alive and to take part in Jewish destiny. To experience miracles of divine providence, bayamim hahem, bazman hazeh, like in those days, but in our time.
And we will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Jerusalem. And I think this fits very well that if Donald Trump moves the US Embassy to Jerusalem on Israel's 50th anniversary, the unification of Jerusalem would be very, very special. Why? I mean, you've been involved in politics, you know a lot of these issues, Michael. Why is the world opposed to Israeli sovereignty over Jerusalem when it's only Israeli sovereignty that's guaranteed religious freedom? Well, I understand it.
Well, add me to that list too. The bottom line is that, with the nonsense in 2016 where UNESCO saying that there's no links to the Jewish people to Jerusalem, I mean, the madness is just beyond belief, something which the Israel-Britain alliances will tackle this year and get some facts laid down. But we're in a situation where the Palestinian narrative wants to override everything else, and there's issues about replacement theology, which people will know far more about than I don't claim to be a scholar on those issues, but the idea that when the Prophet Muhammad came that everything else fell away, and as you rightly pointed out a few moments ago, Jerusalem is the only place, and I've been there several times, where you're walking down the streets and you see Christians celebrating their faith, you see Muslims celebrating their faith, you actually see the Israeli security forces protecting the rights of Muslims to celebrate their faith. I mean, where does the madness end, where people claim that somehow that Israel is this terrible state? I mean, it's a democracy with 1.4 million Arabs. But yet we get, when it comes to the issue of settlements in the West Bank and so on and so forth, that people claim that somehow like 350,000 Jews are going to prevent a state of Palestine being created. I mean, another roadblock that they deliberately put in their own way to have in a negotiation. And, you know, that clip was magnificent. I hope to look at the longer one. But people should remember about what happened in '67. I was only 3. But the position was that armies of all the surrounding countries were lined up against Israel. That we know that Nasser had moved into the Sinai and they ready to take action. They closed off the Straits of Tiran, which knocked off Israel's ability to get to the Red Sea and all the trading routes and so on and so forth. That itself was an act of war. And then miraculously, this tiny nation, just reborn 19 years before, finds it within itself and to take on those armies pitted against it and wins.
In 6 days.
In 6 days. Yeah. Can you describe it as anything else other than a miracle?
Oh, absolutely. And David, you know, as a Jewish person, what does the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Jerusalem and the reunification of Jerusalem mean to you?
It means everything. Jerusalem is such a central part of the Jewish faith. And I bring this back to my own personal experience. I was luckily enough to live within the old city walls of Jerusalem for a year when I was doing my gap year in a theological seminar. And it's an unforgettable experience, just as Michael says, to see the 3 great religions of the world, the 3 great monotheistic religions of the world, up close, side by side. It's a remarkable thing. And the only time when the rights of all of those 3 religions have been protected has been since Israel reunified the city. Prior to that, there were no such rights. There were certainly no rights for the Jewish people to visit the Western Wall, the holiest site for the Jewish people. The only time when there's been freedom of access to all of those places has been since 1967. It is such a powerful place, and I would encourage your viewers, and I would encourage everyone out there to go and visit.
Absolutely.
You know, because certainly I know this for sure. When I took lots of members of parliament over there, you just don't get it. You just don't understand the importance of the place of Jerusalem, how small it is, the proximity of the important sites, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the mosque on the Temple Mount, and the Western Wall, until you actually visit. So, you know, go and visit, go and see for yourself, because even if you've been many times before, it gives you something new every time you visit. It is such a powerful place, and you know, the fact that it's back in our hands, listening to those words in Hebrew, you know, Yerushalayim b'yadenu, which means Jerusalem is in our hands, Iratika b'yadenu, the old city is in our hands. These are tremendously powerful things for a Jewish person to see. And it's wonderful that you, Simon, and your Christian viewers are, you know, getting an understanding and advocating on behalf of Israel, because, you know, for so many years the Jewish people felt isolated, felt they were on their own, and really fighting this battle on their own. And here we are, I am the only Jew, 2 Christians here who are advocating for Israel. You know, it's such a powerful thing that your viewers as well are you know, supporters of Israel. I can't tell you how much that means to Jewish people and to Israel as well. It's a really, really special thing, you know, and I thank you for that, and I thank the good Lord for that as well, because as I said, for so many years Jewish people have felt isolated, and the fact that there are Christians coming out today advocating on behalf of Israel, visiting the state of Israel, and writing to the members of parliament, phoning up news radio shows, it is a tremendously powerful thing, and also is, I think, part of the miracle as well.
Absolutely. And David, like Ruth, your God is our God, and where you go, we go. So that's why I do this program. It's important that we proclaim the truth about Israel's situation in the Middle East, and that we stand for righteousness and justice, and we stand for God's plans and purposes for Israel and the Jewish people, because we know that you and the Jewish people and the nation of Israel have an incredible destiny ahead. So we know that from Scripture. And I have to ask you, Michael, I mean, I remember the first visit of Jerusalem I ever had was in 96 when I was doing a program with the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and going on on that motorway road from Tel Aviv airport all the way up to Jerusalem, and just seeing the old city and seeing the Dome of the Rock and Jerusalem was something very special. What are your memories of Jerusalem?
Well, as David said, I think it's the close proximity of all the sites. I went up to the site of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. In fact, there's a little story. I was in Glasgow a few weeks ago, where one of the places I don't have to use subtitles. And I was speaking to a young man. He was a young Pakistani origin, and he was talking about Israel. Oh no, I can't go to Israel. You know, it's too dangerous in Al-Aqsa Mosque. And I said to him, nothing could be further from the truth. And I spent 5 minutes with him, and I explained how his religious freedom is guaranteed by the Israeli government and Israeli democracy, and he was shocked. But clearly this young man, and there'll be many young men and women across the country who are fed this nonsense, that somehow that Israel is a terrible place and it's a terrible place to visit. I said, go visit, you will be allowed onto Al-Aqsa Mosque. And one of the things that I found interesting is when I was on that site, the place where Jesus turned over the money changers' tables, you know, a lot of extraordinary biblical history there. And it is the close proximity, the Western Wall, walking the way of the cross, this Church of the Holy Sepulchre, all those things. You know, something, it draws you to the conclusion that, you know, for those of us who do believe that there's a greater being, that must convince you of it, because everything happened in the same place.
Absolutely.
And it's a beautiful country, and you'll be delighted to know, David, there will be at least one new visitor next year, because my good lady Mrs. McCann will be joining me on a trip to Israel, so we'll be at least adding one more person to the list of believers in Israel.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we'll get on the programme as well when you come back to share her experiences, which will be great. Dave, we're down to probably about 4 minutes of the programme. 2017 is a fantastic year for Israel, wonderful year of anniversaries, when we remember the rebirth of the State of Israel after over 2,000 years of exile. What role can our viewers play in supporting Israel and the Jewish people in 2017?
Well, I would echo some of the things I've said already, which are, you know, the most important thing I think that anyone can do right now is go and visit. Really, that is the most powerful thing you can do. And I know this from taking many people over there, and even I know from my own visits as well. It's only when you visit that you really get it. I mean, I'm taking many, many MPs over there, and really after day 2, you see it happen. You see them finally understand the beauty of their land, how small it is, how vulnerable it is. So really, really go and visit. You will have a fantastic time. And I say, you know, book that trip, whether it's a religious trip. There are so many organizations that can take you over there. See the religious sites, see the secular sites. You know, Tel Aviv is such a remarkable city as well. Jerusalem, Haifa in the north, these are beautiful places. Go and visit, because that's the best thing you can possibly do. And the second thing you can do is get involved. You know, get in there. It's not enough just to watch TV and to watch great programs like this. You know, join organizations like Michael's. You know, get on his mailing list. There are lots of actions which you can take, whether they are joining protests, writing to your MPs, lobbies of Parliament, phoning up radio shows. And, you know, it isn't that difficult. There are some few salient facts which you can always tell. You know, Israel is the only democracy from Morocco all the way over to Iran, which has genuine, fair elections. Get involved. Tell your member of parliament how you feel. Get involved in the media as well. Don't be scared. You can do it. Educate yourself and get out there and support Michael in his fantastic work.
Fantastic. And Michael, well, it's all down to you then. You have the final words of this programme. How can we meet the challenges facing Israel in 2017, and what role can our viewers do to support the excellent work you're doing in these very important campaigns on behalf of Israel?
Well, can I say, Simon, I'm delighted to be on this show because this is where it all started for me in terms of letting people know what the Israel-Britain alliance was all about. Thousands of people have taken up the challenge that David has just outlined. They have come from all different organisations, from Christian organisations, from Jewish organisations, from Friends of Israel across the length and breadth of the United Kingdom. Let's keep up that work. We have got some exciting campaigns coming this year we are going to make a real difference. And let me assure you, our politicians are listening. They know that we have a heart for Israel, and are going to hear about that very loud and clear in 2017.
Gentlemen, I just want to thank you so much for being my guests on the Middle East Report, and you two work very well together, so maybe there's some future work for you to do. So thank you so much for being my guests on today's programme.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you for watching today's Middle East Report as we look at the challenges, we look at the threats, and also the opportunities facing Israel in 2017. And to think that this is the Balfour centenary year, and also the re-establishment of the reunification of Jerusalem is also very important. And this is a year that we can celebrate Jerusalem, we can celebrate the historic connection between Britain and Israel, and what a year we have ahead of us in order to stand with Israel and the Jewish people. And so thank you for watching today's Middle East Report.
A story about a special place for me. An ancient, cherished land where the mountain breeze is clear as wine. This is Israel's story.